All right. It is Thursday, November 11th. I want to start off by, of course, with it being Veterans Day, thanking those out there for their service and protecting this great country. Obviously, it's a privilege to be able to do this show. So, want to acknowledge all the veterans out there before we get started today. We have a packed show. I'm Alex Glaze. He's Jared Smith. This, of course, is Let's Bet It. And Jared, a lot going on today. A great slate, a lot of variety last night with, we had Maction, we had some college basketball, some NBA, some hockey. I mean, and then today we throw in, the NFL, of course. I mean, just a great time of year.
Yeah, not quite a sports equinox because the baseball season's over, but we're 3 out of 4 tonight. Everything that you could possibly ask for. I guess if you want to count college football as a different section of the sports world, then we do have 4 different sports going tonight. But very exciting time of the year, November, December, especially now the college football season's kind of wrapping up. We're really starting to look ahead to the bowl games, and same thing with the NFL postseason as we really start to see the cream rise to the top here. And we're going to get an NFL game tonight with one of the teams, I think, at least, with a chance to make some noise in January.
Okay, we'll see about that. And I don't know if college football is its own sector, but Maction definitely is its own sector.
Yeah.
Maction's
it's a religion. It's a cult.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the card today, we got, of course, my laser sharp college football picks. Thursday night football picks with Slop. Slop's going to give us an NBA prop for tonight. And then, of course, we are going to wrap things up with our play of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And Jared, I'm going to start with some college football picks. And of course, we have to start with this game, you being Michigan, man, correct? I mean, you were on the show with the
Penn State.
Well, you were on the show with a Michigan shirt a couple weeks ago.
Unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, I'm never going to be able to live that one down, huh? I finally beat Lauren in a head-to-head swag bet last week, but before that, I was basically a Michigan man rocking her colors for about a month.
So do you guys have a bet on this game? Is there?
We do. She wants to up the ante and do she's got this adrenaline junkie rush that I don't have. She wants to do some kind of fear factor, eating something gross. I guess me eating candy corn wasn't enough of a humiliation for her. I do think we're going to do some kind of a clothing. I still have my Michigan shirt. I think I'm going to buy her some Penn State Nittany Lion ears for her to wear if Penn State wins. But she said she wants to up the ante. So I think Jack's going to have to come up with some kind of deciding bet next week.
I think face painting should be involved.
That's interesting. I don't know how our boss Dan Pazzer would feel about me doing a show with like a Wolverine on my face, but
yeah, I mean that's all good fun. But of course, we're talking about the Penn State Michigan game this weekend. A really, really big game in the Big Ten. Penn State catching 1.5 points at last check. When I look at this game, I mean, it's really simple for me. Listen, I said after the Michigan State game, I tweeted out, I will never bet Jim Harbaugh on a Jim Harbaugh-led team again in my life. So auto fade for me. So I'm on Penn State, just off principle. But then the more I look into this game, I'm looking at Penn State, and I think we're talking about Penn State a lot differently if Sean Clifford doesn't get hurt against Iowa. I think this is a completely different season for them. I mean, obviously he's healthy now, but things have kind of fallen off the rails a little bit with Penn State and kind of what they were hoping to achieve maybe this season. But Penn State 5-1 straight up in their last 6 games against Michigan at home. I mean, Harbaugh this is what he does. He just loses big games on the road and big spots. So I'm going to roll with Penn State. I'm going to take the points.
Yeah, I think the line is pretty telling. Shout out to our new producer, Justin, for getting some of these stats in here. Penn State's Big Ten games have only hit the over 1 of 6 times this year, and 48.5 is a super low total. So I think in general, if you think this is going to be a close, tight, tightly contested affair, I think Penn State's defense is better. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I think Penn State has the better defense. I think they've got more talent on defense for sure. They've got a couple of first-rounders, I think, on that, maybe in the secondary and at the linebacker position. But I think when you look at the line analysis here, Michigan being a top 10 team, having playoff aspirations, and as you mentioned, Penn State being a team that's underachieved, I think there might be some surprise that the Nittany Lions, A, open as a favorite here, and B, the line hasn't really, really moved towards Michigan a whole lot. I saw some, it flipped across 0, but it hasn't moved really to that key number of 3 just yet. So if it gets to 3, then I would be really interested in taking Penn State. I still think I'd be willing to take the 1.5 just because of the things you mentioned about, Michigan's ability to play big in big games. And I think Penn State's due for a win in a big game. They haven't had one since very early in the year. And I think this is a Penn State team that's tough as nails. And again, I know I'm biased, but I think they're the mentally tougher team. And I think they're going to win. I do think they're going to win this game. So I certainly agree with your pick.
What time is this game? I'm sorry.
Noon game. It's a noon game. Okay. Yeah, which I don't love. I'd rather have it obviously be at night at home. But I still think Michigan is going to struggle to move the ball. And I think
yeah. And I was going to say, I think the big thing we're seeing this year too, there is a home field advantage that didn't exist, last year with, no fans or limited fans because of the COVID year. So that definitely is a factor as well. So we're both on the same side with that one. Moving on, these next two games I want to talk about, they're kind of tricky because they're big numbers, but I think that it's kind of, I don't want to say they're trap games, but they kind of feel like trap games for bettors out there. I'm going to start with, we're going to stay in the Big Ten, Purdue and Ohio State. Ohio State 20.5-point favorites over the team that just beat the third ranked team in the country. That was their second win, Purdue's second win over a top 5 team this year. I mean, Purdue's all they've done is just beat top 5 teams, right? Like they've looked pretty average against everyone else, but they just show up against these top 5 teams. Lucky for me, Ohio State ranked 6th. So in this spot, I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to lay the 20.5 points. It sounds nuts, but the public is just all over Purdue. It's like the books are begging you to take the 20.5 points with this one because of their big wins, because, there's that recency bias of what you just saw. And they look good against Michigan State. Michigan State, I mean, I got suckered into Michigan State last week. They're not great. That secondary stinks, right? And they just haven't faced a quarterback or an offense like C.J. Stroud and Ohio State's offense. I think Ohio State, especially at home, is going to be able to fire away on that Purdue defense. And it's tough because, the knock on Ohio State is their secondary. And Aiden O'Connell just threw for 536 yards and 3 touchdowns last week for Purdue. But I think that Ohio State's front is going to be able to get home and put pressure on him that is going to make things really uncomfortable for him. So I'm gonna lay almost 3 touchdowns. I'm not happy about it, but I just feel like that's the right spot.
I think it's 100% the right spot. So Purdue was getting 2.5 against Michigan State, and it was at home, granted. So you would expect maybe a field goal off the line there. But then they play Ohio State, who, in terms of the rankings, is not that far in front of Michigan State. And the spread's 3 touchdowns. I think that tells you everything you need to know about how the sports books, the power ratings, feel about Ohio State compared to Michigan State. And I think the gap there is huge. And I think the overall zigzag approach, which is let down, bounce back, let down, bounce back. Last week, it was a letdown for Michigan State against Purdue after their win against Michigan. This week, it's a letdown for Purdue after the game against Michigan State. And then on the other side, we could talk about Michigan State's game against Maryland. It's just, I think the zigzag approach is the right way to play college football because the emotions is more volatile than in the NFL, where they're professionals. They handle losing a lot differently. And the volatility of college football, I think, is much more severe. And that's why I love Ohio State in this spot. The line is incredibly telling. Not only did it open at almost 3 touchdowns, it's moved towards the Buckeyes. And I do think when you look at this game big picture, Ohio State still has everything to play for, as do all the other teams. Even Michigan and Michigan State still have everything to play for in front of them. And I think they want style points because they're going to need it. And I could really see Ohio State putting up a big number this week against the Bulldogs.
What's concerning for me, I agree with all your points. What's concerning for me is Ohio State's defense. They didn't look great against Nebraska, and Nebraska, I think they get a bad rap. I think they're better than their record. Yeah. They're better than a lot of people think, but still, it just doesn't look good when you don't blow out a team like Nebraska, And Adrian Martinez had a pretty good game against that defense.
He's a really good quarterback. He's better than who Purdue is going to throw out there.
He's also been there for 10 years. So, or it feels like he's been there for 10 years. So
it's true, actually.
All right, so we're on the same side for that one. So we're 2 for 2. I don't know if this is either gonna be really good for the show or really bad for the show.
Yeah, for real.
This next game I actually really struggled with. Georgia on the road at Tennessee. Again, we got a big number. Georgia laying 20.5 points against Tennessee. And this is a spot. I was talking about this game with a friend last night where I want to take Tennessee in the points so bad. I really do, because this is by far a spot where, I mean, this is the best quarterback I think that Georgia's faced this year. Probably from an arm talent perspective, maybe not from like a pure talent perspective, but just from like an arm talent and ability. I mean, DJ Uiagalelei is probably the best quarterback when it's all said and done, but he hasn't, been able to get it done this year. That Tennessee offense, they're fast paced. They move the ball at a high clip. They move it quickly. They can put up points. There's a lot that goes into that. It's a very different offense than Georgia's faced this year. When you look at teams, the better teams that they faced, the Kentuckys, the Auburns, even the Arkansas at the time they played, those are teams that want to run the football. Tennessee, they're not going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to just dot it all over the place and just keep the pace and keep it moving. But then when you take a deeper dive into that, it's going to be a challenge for Georgia's secondary in that defense. But then it just comes back to Georgia has not allowed more than 13 points this year. And this might present a challenge, but when you have that fast-paced offense, when you have, you're passing at a high clip, you also open yourself up to short drives, to not taking time off the clock because you're not being able to complete things or move the ball the way you want to. They haven't faced a front like Georgia's. And I just think when it's all said and done, you can't play the way Tennessee plays against a team like Georgia. You have to value the ball, keep the ball in your possession. They don't care about time of possession. So for all those reasons, I'm going to lay the points with Georgia. And I think that this is just a game where Georgia's eventually going to just lean on them, both those big boys on the offensive line and defensive line. They're just going to lean on them, and they're not going to be able to do it for 4 quarters. Tennessee's not. I mean, Tennessee, I think, is going to be able to put up maybe 3 scores, but I still think Georgia's going to be able to put up north of 45 points. And at the end of the day, that's going to be the difference. So I'm going to lay the 20.5 points.
I don't have a strong opinion on this game. I think the market is a little split because I'm seeing actually a lot of the handle come in on Tennessee, which makes them kind of a public dog, which would, push me away from the balls. I do think Florida's got a better number in yards per play, but I think there's some, debate about how good Florida's offense is. So I think it's fair to say that this might be the best offense that Georgia's faced all year. Unless you really are a believer in the Gators offense, because numbers-wise, they're better in yards per play. But Tennessee's pretty good in yards per play as well. They're in the top 30. So I think this is going to be a test for the Georgia defense, which is good because their next 2 games are not, Charleston Southern and Georgia Tech. And then, obviously, the SEC title game will be their next really important game. This might be the last chance we get to really grade the Bulldogs before that SEC title. So I'm curious what kind of, output they put out there, if they really put the pedal down or if they just kind of coast. If they are in cruise control mode, trying to just, not show much before the SEC title, I could absolutely see Tennessee backdooring this. But if Georgia does put the hammer down, then I think they should cover this number because I do think they're 3 touchdowns better than Tennessee on a neutral field. So I wouldn't back the Vols, but I'm not really overly excited to lay 20 on the road with the Bulldogs.
The funny thing is Georgia doesn't have to show much. They can just run the ball down Tennessee's throat. I mean, so it's just going to come down to whether or not Tennessee can possess the ball. I want to say Kentucky last week, I think they had like 45 minutes time of possession and still lost that game. I mean, just crazy stuff.
Yeah, that was a weird game.
Weird game. So I'm going to wrap this up with a game that I don't want to say this is a weird team, but this is a team that they deserve a little bit of they deserve some love on the show. Miami, okay? Miami, Florida State. Florida State, I believe, catching 2.5 points. Tyler Van Dyke has really turned things around for the Hurricanes. I mean, I think he saved Manny Diaz's job, right? Like, for as much as Miami fans might not want to hear that, I think that Tyler Van Dyke has single-handedly saved Manny Diaz's job. So I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on this game when you look at it? Do you have any strong opinions? And then I'll give my thoughts.
I like Tyler Van Dyke a lot too. I liked him really. I thought that game against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago was kind of, I don't want to say his coming out party because he played well against NC State too in primetime. But I think the fact that he actually, you can kind of count both of those games as kind of coming out parties for Van Dyke. I think Miami's better than probably their record indicates. And I don't know how I feel about Florida State. I'm actually kind of torn on them because I think, again, they have talent as well. I think both of these teams are probably undervalued in the eyes of the bookmakers, which is going to make this a fascinating game because I do think both teams have a ton of talent. They just haven't necessarily put it together for the full 60 week to week. But this game's always fun. Coming from someone who grew up in South Florida, I've got a ton of family and friends that went to both these schools. I'm always fascinated when they play and there's not a lot on the line, record wise,
right?
Because there is a lot on the line.
There is
These
a lot
guys all played against each other in high school, so this game always has subtext to it, even if it's not a ranked versus ranked team.
Yeah. When I'm looking at this, all those things you said are true, and that's exactly why I'm going to just pocket the points and roll with Florida State. Because also you got to remember Jordan Travis, he's back. He didn't play last week against NC State. Florida State's quarterback was out with the flu, so he's back. And I think that's obviously a big boost for that Florida State offense. And we're talking a lot about Van Dyke, but that Florida State defense, they get pressure on the quarterback. They rank 11th nationally in time to pressure, 2.26 seconds.
I like that stat a lot.
And 30th in sack rate, 8.7%. So they will pressure the quarterback. That's over the last two games. But they will put pressure on the quarterback. They know that they can get Van Dyke's a freshman, right? So make him think a little bit faster than he's used to. Make that game speed up a little bit. So I'll take the points, especially Florida State at home, rivalry. Everything is just telling me that's the play.
One thing to keep in mind too, and this matters a lot now that we've reached not the end, but basically, 2 or 3 games left for a lot of these teams. Florida State's sitting on 6 losses. So this is it. If they lose this game, they're not going to a bowl game most likely. Right. So
they have to win out to be bowl eligible. Yep.
That matters a lot. And I think if I were going to bet this game, I'm not, but if I were, I would definitely lean on the home dog and the home dog with their backs against the wall. I think that's probably the right move for me.
Coaches' bonuses on the line.
100%. The bowl games, Matt. That if you think they're not talking about that in practice this week, you've covered these teams. They are talking about that for sure. Absolutely. And they want the bowl game. They get the swag, they get the travel, they get the little cool. The bowl games are a big deal.
Absolutely. All right, let's switch gears and talk some Thursday night football. Let's bring in our friend John Hyslop. Give me 1 second. Get Slop in here.
I can't wait to gamble, man. I just can't. I literally can't.
That's a great way to look at it. I know we got some picks in here. I'm looking at our picks right now. None of us picked a side, and I think that's very telling. 7.5 points. Interesting. More interesting, the Ravens, I believe, 0-4 this season when favored by 6 or more points against the spread, obviously. So
nice.
I don't want to have Dolphins plus 7.5 on my card, so I'm gonna stay away in that regard. So we got some props here. So Slop, why don't you start us off with some props for tonight's game to give the people something to look forward to.
All right. So here's how I see it going. The Ravens win, probably big. Like, it's a strong maybe, right? So you can't have a -7.5. You're going to ruin your Thursday if you do that, because you might get a backdoor cover, or the Dolphins might win outright late, something stupid, because the Ravens have been in some weird games. So you can't take the side. You can't. But you can take the tight ends from Miami. Because outside Jamar Chase, the Ravens pretty much locked down the receivers, right? So you know the Dolphins are going to be throwing, but the Ravens are probably going to take away Waddle. I mean, he's a rookie. I mean, I guess Chase is too, but Chase is a different animal. But anyways, only 2 teams in the NFL have given up more yardage, receiving yardage, to the tight end position than the Ravens. Like, so here we are. You know, the Dolphins have been sprinkling in 3 of them too. So you obviously want to go with Gesicki. 4.5 receptions at -110. That's a fair price, good number. Feel like that's price to move, so you take that. But you could kind of screw yourself doing that if you only take him, just because you might turn around and watch the game, and then now they're throwing to Durham Smythe or Adam Shaheen. So what you do is you take Shaheen over 9.5 receiving yards. Now you're all set. Now you hope the Dolphins get waxed, and you just hope they throw the ball for literally the entire game. Brissett targets the tight end. Shaheen's done this like 3 times, I think, in his last three starts. So I mean, it's not like it's something he never does. And again, it protects you from ruining your night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm with you on the Gesicki pick. Obviously, I watched the Ravens a ton, and there's one thing I know: they cannot cover the tight end. You know, they struggled against Darren Waller week 1, struggled against Travis Kelce, and this is probably the 3rd best tight end, I would say, that they faced this year. I think that's fair. I mean, I'm drawing a blank on the Bengals.
Gesicki's a beast.
He's
pretty good too.
Uzomah had like 91 yards.
Better than Uzomah.
And he had a big game against the Ravens as well. That Ravens secondary, they're just not they're not great, and they're banged up. Deshaun Elliott out for the year. I mean, just another blow. Obviously, Marcus Peters playing corner, not going to cover any tight ends, but that secondary, they're dealing with a lot of issues there. So I like that, and I'm going with the over for Gesicki with 54.5 yards. So we're both on the same page with that. Jared, you got a pick?
Yeah, I think this is a Lamar Jackson game. So this is his homecoming. This is his hometown, kind of. Boynton Beach, about an hour north of south of Hard Rock Stadium, which is kind of Miami, but it's kind of not Miami. It's a little north of Miami, if you know the landscape down there.
Yeah, it ain't Miami.
South Florida. Yeah, it's kind of on the fringe of Miami, but this is definitely a homecoming game for Lamar Jackson. He played high school in Boynton Beach. And the last time he was down there playing a professional game against the Dolphins was week 1 of 2019. I think, Alex, being a Ravens fan, I'm sure you know how that game worked out. I would say maybe the best game of his career. 5 touchdowns. They won 59-10. So I think you could sprinkle any Lamar Jackson prop you want tonight. Specifically, I'm on the anytime touchdown at +140. I'm on his. And I like this prop when you have a running quarterback like Lamar. Not just the passing yards prop, not just the rushing yards prop separate, but you can combine the two. Passing plus rushing over 302.5. I think that's a great number, because I don't really know what the game plan will be tonight, if it's going to be Lamar with his legs or if it'll be Lamar with his arm. But you're kind of covered both ends. If he goes off in either spot, you should be fine here. And then if you want to sprinkle the anytime touchdown prop at 8-1, no issues there. I will mention this. If you are thinking about backing one of the sides here, a lot of public money on Baltimore. We did see the line move over the key number of 6.5 to 7.5 earlier this week. Now it's getting close to 8. And another very interesting or, noteworthy point, the quarterback situation for Miami is in flux. Tua has I think it's a fractured middle finger on his left hand, and he's a lefty. So it's not throwing that's the issue. It's the snap. They think he's not going to be able to handle, the ball handling, security that a quarterback needs to have. He's going to work out before the game. He might start, he might not. I don't think it's going to affect the point spread either way. I think Brissett and Tua are kind of, on the same level right now.
They're the same.
Personally, I'd like to see Tua play, but I
think Brissett's actually more dangerous. I think
sure.
Brissett's actually a better quarterback than Tua.
I don't think it'll affect the line either way, though, whichever guy plays. So if you want to play the Dolphins and it is Tua, I don't think you're going to get a worse number than it is now. I think this number will probably close right at around 7.5, maybe 8, but not much higher than that.
I'm kind of on the same page with you, Jerry, because my second pick for this game, Lamar Jackson to throw two plus touchdowns.
Love it.
And for the Ravens to win at plus 24, plus 124. Both those things happen, plus 124. Kind of along the same lines. I think the Ravens, I don't think they're going to struggle against this Miami defense. This isn't the Miami defense of, the past last year where, they were legit. This is a much, much weaker unit. And I think the Ravens, I don't think they're going to struggle to move the ball and to score at all. So I like Lamar to have 2 touchdowns. And I just think the Ravens to win. Take it.
Yeah, I think this is a Lamar game for sure. I mean, and also he's not out of the MVP race yet. I mean, the Cowboys just lost last week. Kyler Murray's hurt. Josh Allen just laid an egg. I mean, I think Lamar is in the middle of the MVP con. Him and Tom Brady both have a chance this week to put themselves right back into that race.
I mean, this is going a little off topic here before we get into the NBA. I think he's the MVP. If we're talking about most valuable player, you take Lamar Jackson off the field. I mean, listen, Kyler has been great, right? But they just plugged in Colt McCoy, right, and won and blew out the Niners. I don't think you're plugging in Brett Hundley and beating anybody if you're the Ravens. I just think there's just Kyler's been great, but there is a value to your team that Lamar brings that is unique to anybody else in that race. Maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you could argue that because
if they do what they did to Miami in Week 1 of 2019 and they drop a 50, almost 60 burger on them, I think you might see Lamar, not the favorite, but certainly raise his.
He's going to climb.
What is he right now?
He's like 10 or 15. He's like between 10 or 15 to 1, depending on where you shop. He's definitely not the favorite. He's in the second tier. The first tier is still Kyler and Dak, and Tom Brady's kind of inserted his name, and Josh Allen. He's in the second tier. But I think if he does what he does, does well, I think he can insert himself into that top tier tonight.
Yeah. And that's about where he was at the beginning of the season, if I remember correctly. About 10 to 1, 12 to 1, something like that.
Right in that range.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what we're on for Thursday night. Slop, before we get into our plays of the day, or our play of the day, excuse me, why don't you give us an NBA prop? Everyone wants to know what Slop's prop is. Who do you have getting a half a block tonight? What's the over? Who's the guy for that tonight?
I wish Julius Randle was playing. I do, but I don't make the schedule, so we can't have him out there. But let me tell you something about life. You work smart, not hard, right?
It's true.
That's the same in basketball, too. Nicolas Batum just embodies that philosophy. If you watch him play, he just hangs out by the three-point line and shoots threes. That's what he does. It's a lot like what I do when I play. Is I'm not trying to dribble in and possibly get hurt or get thrown into the stands. Just going to stand by the three-point line and shoot a three. That's it. And plus, it's math, too, when you think about it, because you get 3 points when you make it, whereas you only get 2 for the dunk. So there's that, too. But if you look at his games, dude, I think he took 10 shots last time. 8 of them were for 3. He'll take 11 shots. 9 are for 3. So he only needs to hit 2.5 tonight and that's plus 155. He's done that in, I think, 4 of his last 5 games. We're talking 4 threes, not even threes. Not even 3, 4 threes he's been hitting. On top of that, they play the Heat, who no team in the NBA has attempted more threes against them on a game-by-game basis. Usually 40 threes a night is what you're going to see from the Heat. So their defense is geared towards that. Jimmy Butler might not even play, so that's another thing. But that should not be plus 155. So for that reason, Nicolas Batum is my guy.
Love it.
That makes sense. I mean, listen, the math works. I like everything you said. I might have to tail that. I like that.
You might as well.
I mean, why not?
Thursday night. Why not?
Thursday night. I mean, plus 155. It's begging me to take it, right? I mean,
I forgot my main point. It starts at 10:30 and it's nationally televised.
Beautiful. So I don't even have to decide. Like if I, get down a little bit, you're like, all right, I need to make up something. That's the makeup.
Slop, how you been doing with NBA so far? I know it's volatile, but is it something that you're really excited about?
I'm barely up. It's like 0.35 units, which I call good because the season doesn't even start until Christmas 100%. Day. So,
I don't even consider the NBA really in season until after the Super Bowl.
So I'm in the preseason and I haven't got hurt yet.
The preseason.
So,
this is the preseason for the NBA.
Yep, I'm in the preseason, and I'm getting into midseason form though. To be honest,
I love
with
it, bro.
you.
Stretch your legs.
Yep. But 10:30 at
Love
night, the football game's winded down, guys. Like
we're already going to hit all of our props by then for Lamar and Gesicki, right? We'll already be good.
For 10 for 100 already. Shaheen's caught like 3 balls for 30 yards. I mean, we're not even watching anymore. Now it's Nicolas Batum time.
We didn't bet the spread. We don't care. Just hit our props.
Watch him tonight just stand behind the 3-point line. He doesn't move. Like, he literally looks like me, except he hits the shots, and he's like 6'8", 230. So, but other than that, like, we're pretty
he can dunk.
Other than that, other than that, we're the same guy.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. All right, well, let's move on to the play of the day. Jared, before we get into our personal plays, is there a pick on the website that you want to designate the Pickswise play of the day?
There is. Chadwick Wetzel. My favorite part about new season starting, hockey, basketball, college hoops, is that we get a lot of new cappers that are, fresh to the site that get to kind of stamp their plays of the day. Tonight, it's Chadwick Wetzel, 3-star play on the under in the Isles and the Devils. And also, we were talking about this earlier. The Islanders are about to play their first home game at the new arena. And Alex, we were talking about the food options there. The bagel with the chicken and the blue cheese. What do you think? I mean, is that a play of the day for you? If you had that option, would you eat that?
I'd eat that.
No chance. Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Slop?
It's a bagel with a chicken tender, cream cheese, and blue cheese, right? I don't want to shortchange the amount of toppings on this thing.
I mean, are we drinking
beers? Am I allowed to show the picture?
Sure.
I think so.
Look at this thing.
Yeah.
At least they colored the bagel Islanders colors. I think that's pretty festive.
Yeah, what's up with the blue bun? Like, that's kind of weird.
That's what they do on Long Island. They make these crazy bagels out there, Slop.
If we're drinking beers and I don't like
you'll eat anything. Just
like, I mean, like, we're at a hockey game. Like, I mean, whatever. Blue bread. Yeah. Let's go. But,
Isles Devils under 5.5.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something we're eating like not at the game.
No, I wouldn't make that in my kitchen. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
Slop, your play of the day is Batum. We just went over that. Jared, you got a play?
Yeah, I feel like hockey's been a little niche for me. Lauren and I are going to go back and forth with a lot of these puck picks this year. I like the Flames tonight. They're facing the Canadiens, who I think are one of the worst teams in hockey. They have the worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference. Only the Coyotes out west, who are arguably one of the worst teams of our generation, have a lower goal differential. And Calgary's coming off of a loss. So I like the zigzag approach when I'm betting. I like the Flames coming off of a loss. They're a really good team. They've got some serious players. Johnny Hockey. I mean, how can you not bet on a team with a guy named Johnny Hockey on it? So I'll lay 40 cents with the Flames tonight. I'm also going to sprinkle the puck line, which is almost 2-1. And that's for them to win by more than 1.5 goals. So Flames money line tonight, up north of the border against the Canadiens. Bet it.
Love it.
I like it.
I am going to college football for my play. I'm going to lay the 6.5 points with Pitt. Jared, we were talking earlier about just kind of the zig and zag and the emotions that go in college football. UNC coming off of its biggest win of the season, knocking off Wake at home, huge win. Now, guess what? Your prize, you get to go face Kenny Pickett and that Pitt offense. Carolina's defense, they don't have a defense pretty much. So Kenny Pickett's going to have a big game tonight. And I also think that Pitt defense is a lot better than they showed against, Miami. And, they've looked a lot better. So I think they're going to tighten things up at home. And I like them to cover that 6.5. So that's my play. That's my play tonight.
I just saw some breaking news that Jim Moore is about to become the next UConn head coach. Any thoughts there? That's
I mean, it's no matter what. That's
Jim Moore Jr. by the way, not senior.
Playoffs.
That's not a big sure.
My first thought was, wow.
Jim's still kicking, man.
It is Connecticut, so I mean, like it's
true.
You get whoever.
You get whoever wants to come.
Probably
that one just came across the wire. I had to throw that out there to the panel to get their thoughts. I don't know. Jim Moore Jr., the next UConn head coach.
I don't know. I mean, that's better than I thought they'd get. I mean, that's
true. He has some experience,
right? That's a compliment. Yeah, I mean, he's coached the team before. You've heard of him. So that's 2 things. There you go. Sign him up.
Fun stuff.
UConn football.
Don't they face?
Do they even need a football team?
Did they cover against Clemson last week? I remember that number was like 40, right? Or is that this week? This game? Don't they play Clemson soon? I'm fascinated if they can cover against Clemson.
Kind of messed up that they'd even allow them to play Clemson. You know what I mean? Like, it's like come on, guys.
Let's see. Clemson.
Great way to end the show. Sorry to go off the rails there. I'm sure Jack is like, stewing
Clemson,
in the back
UConn.
right
That
now.
is Saturday.
That's this week. They're laying like 40 points, right? I'm fascinated if they can cover against Clemson because Clemson hasn't really, tewn that they're a great team this year.
But it's also.
But it's UConn.
Come on,
you gonna take them, Jared?
No, but I'm fat. It's one of those games that'll be on my side screen because it's like I'm fascinated.
40 and a half. 40 and a half.
40 and a half.
Absurd number.
Is that minus? Is that minus 100,000 on the money line?
Yeah.
That's an absurd number.
Is that minus 100,000 I'm seeing?
We got to talk about this game. I don't think we're doing a weekend show, but if we were, this would be like the top game. We got to at least put a little sprinkle on Clemson, I think. I think Clemson covers. I think they cover.
To wrap things up, just here, if you guys had $100,000, would you put it on Clemson money line to win $1,000?
Yes. If I had nothing else to bet on that day and it's like I want a free $100, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if I get the money, I get the time. You know what I mean?
But who has that kind of money?
Yeah, but like to have that kind of money. If you had that kind of money, you probably wouldn't be making bets like that because that's probably not how you got that money.
I saw someone bet all this money on minus 10,000 college basketball money lines the other day. I think we tweeted.
People do that all the time. People do that all the time.
That is so crazy.
Ridiculous.
Hey, it's gotta be fun. But I would love to hang out with guys that do that though, because they gotta be pretty fun guys. You know what I mean?
And they're probably paying for drinks too.
Yeah,
paying for drinks. They're probably feeling real good until Ohio State Akron's coming down to like the final second.
Yeah.
Like wait,
man.
The final shot. Like, wait, hold on.
Like,
it's all good until it's not good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jared. Thank you, Slop, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow.